The Profit Constructors presents Construction Junction, the junction between accounting and construction. Please welcome our host, Tanya Schulte.
Hey guys, welcome back for this edition of the Construction Junction podcast. I don't know about you, but it feels to me like we just barely dropped the last podcast, and here we are dropping a new one. These months are flying by. So here we are ready to talk to you about another really cool tool in the construction industry. So if you're a newbie, you haven't been around very long, let me just explain how our podcast segments typically flow. I am going to tell you about something that I think is a really great either idea or topic or tool in the first segment. And then we move on and talk to subject matter expert on that topic, tool, or idea. And then we get to talk to an end user, someone who is in the construction industry every day, doing these amazing construction things and wants to know more about that topic or tool or idea. So that's kind of our format and how everything flows around here. Like I said, it's been a totally crazy month on our end. Our firm doesn't actually do tax. So a lot of people will say to me, oh, you're an accountant. This is your busy time of year. And that hasn't really been our thing, but we are helping people with a lot of PPP things, and we are helping people get their month ends done. We just have a lot that's always going on over at our firm. So I feel like it's just been a crazy, crazy month since we last talked, but it's good to be back here. And I am really excited to tell you about this tool that we're going to talk about today. It is a tool called ClockShark. And then if you've never heard of it before, it's an online time tracking system. So mobile time tracking, something that allows your guys to track time out in the field on their mobile devices, get that time transmitted back to the office, and then use that time data for good payroll costing. And of course, as we are talking to in the construction industry, for a lot of really good job costing purposes, right? So, and I'm going to let Luke, we're going to be talking to Luke, my friend, here in just a minute. He's with ClockShark. I'm going to let him kind of tell you more about ClockShark itself. And then, as I said, we have an end user that we're going to be talking to, and we're going to find out more about her experience. But let me just tell you a little bit about how I came to know ClockShark and some experiences that we've had with it. And then we'll, again, let Luke explain more about what it is and kind of how it works, and then dive in some more. So a few years ago, I'll have to find out from Luke about how long ago it was. But when our firm first started, one of our goals was to really bring good tools to our clients. My background was in corporate construction accounting, and a lot of the companies that I had worked for had these proprietary systems that they had hired outside developers to come in and build these large proprietary systems for everything across the board in the company. So we might be tracking a lot of our payroll, a lot of our administrative side, our project management side, all of that was going through these like large enterprise level or proprietary systems. And when I wanted to bring that down for our firm and have our firm help small businesses, and one of our taglines is, we help you run with the big dogs. Our tagline is, we help you run with the big dogs. In order to make that happen, I recognized the need for these small businesses who are using tools like QuickBooks Desktop and QuickBooks Online to have other tools at their disposal that they could sort of plug and play, that they could integrate these other tools into the softwares that they were already using on the accounting side and allow them to have all of the automation and efficiency that came from having the enterprise level and proprietary softwares that the companies I'd been working for had. And so I was a woman on a mission at that time to go out and find those tools and find a really good tech stack for our clients. I really wanted to be able to walk in the door and say, here's how you're currently doing things, and here's a really good tech stack that will make what you're doing that's good even better. And so in that mission, I ended up stumbling across the website for ClockShark, and I found a relationship with the gentleman that we're going to bring on here in just a minute, Luke from ClockShark. He and I started talking. I started asking him questions about how their solution would work for our clients and what they could offer. And Luke was great from the very beginning. He spent a lot of time with me answering questions, giving me information, listening to feedback that I had for him, and really just working with us to understand what his solution was. And at that time, even I know they're still doing this, to make their solution even better based on the needs that our clients had at that particular time. So I want to tell you a little bit too about how did we then translate this into a good experience for our clients. So one of the things that I want to share with you, one of the experiences that I want to share with you, we had a client that when we first came to them had gone to an IT guy and had a time tracking system built for them because they recognized the need to have something a little bit different than, let's say, paper timesheets or even a spreadsheet type of tracking program. They wanted something that was a little more robust. And so they had gone out and had this built. But even at the time that we came and were helping them use that, there were so many issues. This program that they had built had become quite clunky. It was always iffy whether we could get good data downloaded out of it in order to translate that data into some type of usable data for their accounting software, which at the time was QuickBooks Desktop. And so there were still, even though they had done some of the work and were getting the hours in, even the getting of the hours in wasn't really an efficient process because there was no mobile way for that to happen. The guys weren't able to do it out in the field. They were asking their guys late in the day, at the end of their day, to come back home and log in to an online system and put their time in. And the guys were tired and not motivated necessarily at the end of the day to get all of that done. So at the end of the week, between their team and our team, there was always still a lot of back and forth between guys out in the field asking what hours had really happened and on which jobs. So there was just a lot of inefficiency even in gathering the data. So the tool that they had paid to have built still wasn't even really fulfilling the function that it needed to fill. And besides that, as I alluded to a little bit earlier, they were having a lot of troubles by the time we came on board getting the data to download in an efficient way to get it into their desktop program. And what had happened was the person who had built it for them had built it in a way that worked sufficiently to get data out and sort of import it into QuickBooks Desktop. But as you know, Intuit's constantly changing their product. And so over the years, as Intuit made changes and upgrades, they hadn't been able to keep up because it's a lot of money invested in making sure that they could keep their small, tiny little proprietary system updated to the point that it needed to be to get that data efficiently into QuickBooks. So again, we were on a mission to help them find a more efficient way to do that. That's when we stumbled upon ClockShark, began talking with them and finding out about them. And we were able to take that client and get them onboarded onto ClockShark. A really cool piece of it is that we helped them convert at that time to QuickBooks Online as well, so that we could take advantage of the QuickBooks Online integration with ClockShark. And so many great things were born out of their being able to move their processes over to ClockShark. They began to really see all the holes and inefficiencies that had been in their older system just being completely filled. All of those holes and gaps were being filled by ClockShark. They were able to schedule their guys through ClockShark. So no more of like calling the guys or having the guys call in every night, which is what had been happening before, and having to line everybody out on a daily basis. Now their project managers had the tools and the ability to schedule out far in advance, to see sets of crews, to see where those crews were going to be on any given day or week, and to just really put all of the pieces together to make their company function in a much more efficient manner on the scheduling side. And then from the time tracking side, they were able to have their guys clock in and clock out in the field. Daily, their foreman then could check the hours and make sure they were correct every single day. So no more was their team or our team scrambling to try to figure out were all the payroll hours entered, were they accurate. had those payroll hours been tracked against the correct job and so on and so forth, all of that checking was able to happen daily now because the guys were doing it in real time at the time that those things were actually happening out in the field. And then there were so many other great efficiencies that were brought in terms of them being able to track some of their paid time off hours, and just a lot of things that they never really had access to before, but that made the management of their business so much more easy and so much more automated and so much more efficient. And yes, I just said the management of their business became more easy. I could see the weight lifted off the shoulders of the office manager once we went through the conversion and got everything set up and running. And it did not take very long. It took us, I think, a couple of weeks to get everything up and running, to get their guys implemented and trained on the software, and just really get things managing efficiently through ClockShark. It was a weight lifted off the shoulders of their office manager. So with that said, I really want you guys to find out more about ClockShark. So when we come back in just a minute, I'm going to introduce you to my friend, Luke. I'll be right back.
Are you a construction accountant or industry advisor who is enjoying the Construction Junction podcast, but wish that you could dive deeper into the topics with industry peers and even learn more about how to serve your clients well? Then you might be interested in the Construction Junction Roundtable, debuting in March 2021. Our host, Tanya Schulte, will lead the Construction Junction Roundtable, where we bring together construction company advisors to learn how to grow their business. Additionally, this helps so that together we can market more effectively, bring high-quality accounting services, and other high-level advisory services in the construction space.
So we are here with Luke from ClockShark. And how far back do you and I go, Luke? How long have we known one another?
I was trying to remember what year was the QuickBooks conference that we met you at. Probably 2017.
Okay, that makes
maybe
sense.
So 4 years, I think.
Yeah,
possibly 2016. I think. Yeah, we went in 2016, but we I don't think we had a booth or anything. We just kind of walked around and explored.
around and looked.
Yeah,
I know a lot of vendors that do that. It's a good way to kind of get your foot wet in the door at some of the bigger conferences.
Right. You need to do a little investigation before you decide you want to pony up to join and buy a booth at QuickBooks. So.
To sponsor something. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Cool. So yeah, you and I have known each other a long time, but for all of our podcast viewers and listeners, tell us who you are and what you do, and tell us about ClockShark.
Yeah, awesome. So I'm Luke Zincanero. I am the Director of Customer Success at ClockShark. I have been with ClockShark since 2016. And the company itself was created in 2015, essentially. Started real small with just the two co-founders. And then they brought me on board to help, at that point, do anything and everything for ClockShark. It wasn't, I wasn't siloed into just a customer success role. But as we've grown and moved on, now I head up our customer success department. So.
Very awesome. And what does that mean? What do you do in customer success?
I do anything and everything to make sure our customers are successful. Feedback about the product, making sure they know how to use it, user education, training, helping with reviews, helping design the product. So we take feedback from all the customers, get that to our product team so they can then iterate on it, make it better. Anything and everything related to customer interaction, feedback, usage, how it integrates with all our different tools. So
I want to dive into what ClockShark is, but I think something that you said is very important for a lot of people who are actually using tools like ClockShark and maybe like QuickBooks Online or some of these other tools. I tell our clients this all the time. If there's something you don't like, some feature you'd like to see added, like click the feedback button, because the developers of these products don't know what you want or need or don't need unless you tell them, right? And so it sounds like something that your team is really doing is paying attention to all that feedback.
Yeah, it's super important. Cliff, our co-founder, he came from the construction industry and he worked for a cell phone tower construction business. He was an operations manager. So going into it, he has a pretty good understanding of a construction business and how they operate, but you still have hundreds of thousands of use cases of different businesses. They all run differently. They all process payroll differently. They, do their account management differently. So feedback is critical. And we, early on, we knew that was something we needed to do right away, is continuously ask for feedback. So we do it on a regular basis. We meet about it, try to prioritize, hey, what are we hearing the most from the biggest user base? Filter that into let's work on that right now, and then prioritize, smaller asks later on. But without our users and their feedback, we wouldn't know what to build. Like you mentioned, it's, just to be a mystery. So.
Great. Awesome. Okay. So we haven't really even touched on what is ClockShark. Tell us what it is and how can users use it?
Yeah, absolutely. ClockShark is a mobile time tracking system that allows you to more efficiently and better have your employees or anyone in the business track their time. A lot of people before this would be using maybe paper timesheets as the most common example, where they have people in the field recording their hours down on a piece of paper, turning it in at the end of the week. And then the office personnel have to try to wrangle all those timesheets, get them in, meet payroll deadlines, which is difficult when you're trying to track down paper timesheets. So ClockShark is a mobile app and administrative portal website on the computer. So the employees record all their time on their mobile app. They can do some job management in the mobile app. So things like add photos and attachments, leave notes, communicate with the back office. And all of that goes in real time to the administrative website. So anyone in the office that's working on timesheets or payroll or job management can see all of that information, at the same time, same day, without having to go back and find it. So it really increases efficiency, time to process payroll, time to do everything else you need to do, because you're not dealing with the back and forth of trying to track all that information down.
Got it. So you guys are replacing, of course, paper timesheets or other Excel or Google Sheets type of tracking of time. But something interesting that you said in there too is that, like, if your clients have service techs that are out in the field, they could actually communicate like information about what they're doing right within the time tracking system too, correct?
Yeah, 100%. So we've actually just recently added a new feature called Conversations. So the old way was you could still add information on the timesheet. So you could leave a note about what you were doing or take pictures and add them to the timesheet. But this brand new feature, which it just came out about a month ago, is called Conversations. And it's actually a way to essentially mention somebody. So if I'm in the field and, I have a change order on a job where, I went to the job to do one thing, but the owner is like, no, I need you to do this instead. Typically that goes through a process. You have to have a change order, make sure you're billing for it properly. So I could mention an administrator in the office right in my mobile app. They'll get an alert in the website that they have a notification. They can look at it and then also mention the employee back through the website so they can see it in their mobile app. So it's a really cool feature that's kind of enhanced that communication level.
Yeah, very cool. What about integrations? What other softwares do you guys integrate with, and why is that even important?
So integrations are huge. A lot of the magic happens on the back end, right? For running your business, whether it's payroll, using suppliers, whatever you need on the back end. And integrations are key to that, to making sure you can reduce your manual entry process. So getting all the data up front, even getting it in ClockShark, is great, but having to manually enter that is terrible, right? It's going to take up your whole day or multiple days. So integrating, QuickBooks is a huge partner of ours. So we integrate with QuickBooks Online, QuickBooks Desktop, all the products. So you can send all your information to ClockShark, export it to QuickBooks, and saves you a whole bunch of manual entry. And we have some other partners as well, payroll companies that we integrate with too. So lots of opportunities to get your data where it needs to go after you collect it in ClockShark.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's one of the biggest things that our team is often tasked with, is helping our clients automate a lot of tasks. And like you just said, even if you can gather all the information, if you then have to turn around and manually enter it somewhere else, there's just so much inefficiency in that system and room for error, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. You're solving 50% of the problem, gathering the data and keeping it where it needs to go and having it be more accurate, but then you're still doing manual entry. You're still suffering that other 50% basically. So
Yeah, exactly. Awesome. So I think some of the other things that I kind of wanted to dive into, because it's like specific to construction companies, our whole podcast is, and you mentioned that one of your co-founders came from that sort of construction background, or they both did come from the construction background. So tell us specifically, like, how, I think for me, that's been really important. The fact that ClockShark was sort of built from the ground up with keeping in mind, and obviously you guys have other users and it's great, but I feel like there's so much for the construction industry that works really well within ClockShark. Tell us more about that. Like, what are the parts and pieces that really, like, you can track things by project, I'm assuming, things like that really feature in for construction companies.
Right. 100%. It, is super important in the construction field to not only know where your workers are. So step one is GPS is a big part of ClockShark. It helps companies know what jobs their employees are on. If they need to move staff from one job to another, they can do that quickly and efficiently. But a bigger part of it is you have to know where your costs are going, right? Where you're spending your dollars, you're sending your employees to work and paying them for that time. But you need to know where to attribute that to the job so that you can bill properly for it. But you also need to know what kind of work they're doing. Yeah. So in ClockShark, one of the specific things is you have to have a job and a task, which is the type of work that the employee is doing at the job, because that lets you dig deeper into really detailed job costing. It helps you with things like workman's comp. So you know how many hours an electrician is doing versus how many hours a general laborer is doing on a job site. Yeah. And so, and like I mentioned before, pictures of job sites, communications with people on the job site is all critical for the back end office to be able to function properly and in the end be a profitable business, right? That's the goal. Yeah. So we help with that with construction specifically.
Perfect. And I know another piece that's been huge for clients of ours that have enjoyed your system is the scheduling piece, being able to get people to the right place at the right time.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like I mentioned, knowing where your employees are with GPS, but then also scheduling them, excuse me. So you can schedule them on a job. They'll get a notification. They can see their schedule right in the mobile app. You can change up the schedule on the admin website. It'll send employees a notification. Hey, I need you to go here instead of here, basically. The employees also get reminders to clock in when they get to a job site. So that's based on the GPS and the scheduled shift that they're on. So it's really helpful in trying to schedule out your employees on a daily basis. And they know their schedule ahead of time. So I think one of the biggest benefits is you no longer have to have your employees come to the office every day to check a whiteboard that's hanging on the wall and find out, okay, I'm going here. Instead they can get up and go to work and not have to add that extra stop. So
yeah, adding in all those efficiencies. You've mentioned several times the mobile app. Walk us through it sounds like there's a lot of things that can actually be done on that mobile app.
The mobile app is great. It's the hub. It's what makes ClockShark go, essentially. From an end user, what we call end user employee level, they can see their schedule. They can see all their timesheets they've recorded, so they have access to all of their data. They can clock in and out, obviously. They can see job information, so the customer, any attachments about the job, pictures that the admins have added. And then on the administrative function, administrators can use the mobile app as well. They can manage jobs in the field. They can add jobs. For some of our bigger clients that have foremen on large job sites, they can actually use a thing called Crew Clock, which is essentially they can clock in and out employees using a Crew Clock mode on the mobile app to manage the entire workforce of that job site instead of having the individuals do it. But it's really flexible. It allows for everyone to do what they need to do on a daily basis.
Awesome. And I think you'd mentioned before GPS. I was picturing some of our clients I've used in the past. It's been a little bit eye-opening to them sometimes where guys are trying to say they were at a job site, but if they're checking in with this GPS tracker and they're checking in, 10, 20 miles from the job site, were they actually really there when they checked in at 8 o'clock that morning? So that's been pretty eye-opening for some of our clients and money saving, right?
Yeah, it's an unfortunate side effect of the industry. And I would say 95 to 98% of employees in the industry are great employees and
Yes, of
they
course.
do an awesome job. But you do have some that, are off at lunch, or they go home when they're not supposed to be at home, when they're supposed to be working. So this system allows them to be able to track, track their employees while they're clocked in is a huge one. No location tracking is ever done when they're off the clock.
Yeah.
But it allows employees to do that. Another side effect, which has been really interesting, is we've actually helped a couple companies recover stolen vehicles because
Wow.
a truck got taken from a job site, but the tablet they were using that had ClockShark on it that they were clocked into was in the truck, but it was taking their GPS. So we were able to give them, hey, we know 15 minutes ago the truck was here, like it might be worthwhile going to check.
Wow.
And they've gone and found the vehicle. So it's not something obviously that it's made for, but it's been a cool side effect that we
Talk about amazing use cases.
right. Yeah.
That's crazy. I had never heard that. That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, this is awesome. I think that we've talked a lot about like ClockShark from the overall view, but one of the things that we love to do on our podcast is kind of find out, okay, you and I love it. We're from the
Naturally.
administrative side. Yeah. So I love the automation. I love the fact that our clients are able to get data right into QuickBooks for us. So if we're running payroll for them, once they've approved it and sent it over to us, we don't have hardly any questions about it, right? Like we know that they've approved it. They've said these are the hours the guys are on the field and we can just run payroll almost seamlessly. So we love it. Obviously you love it. But we like to, on the podcast, talk to somebody who's actually using it from the user side. So thankfully you brought along a user that and that likes it. So we're going to take a quick break here. And when we come back, we're going to talk to Keiko.
If you would like to share your company or product on the Construction Junction, email hello@theprofitconstructors.com to become a sponsor.
Thank you. Welcome back, Luke. And thanks for joining us, Keiko. We're joined here by Keiko with Proco Painting. Did I say both of those correctly?
Yes, you did.
Awesome. So tell us a little bit about you, Keiko. Tell us about Proco and your background and what brought you to ClockShark.
Yeah, for sure. So I run a commercial and residential painting company out in Canada, actually. And I've been in the industry for 13 years, but I've been running a professional painting company for the past 8. We rebranded to become Proco Painting about 2 years ago. That aside, 3 years ago, we really hit a point where we were growing and we needed a more efficient way to track time, make sure that painters knew where they were going, and we just kind of outgrew our Google Sheets platform. So we sought out companies. We actually researched several companies, and ClockShark seemed to be the best fit for us. So we did a trial with them and never looked back. So
Awesome.
That's kind of where we're at.
Let me ask you this, because I think it's often informative and maybe will help some people who are kind of hesitant if they're thinking about using something like ClockShark. What were some of the questions or concerns that you had that maybe made you think you might not want to go with ClockShark?
Well, we made a list of things that we needed for sure. So number one was we wanted to be able to schedule. We wanted to be able to track their time, obviously per day in an efficient manner. One of the things that kind of turned us off a little bit at first was the GPS tracking, just because that's kind of at first thought, it's like, is that an invasion of privacy of the staff? How are they going to feel about already being employed by us, going from something that's, Google Sheets versus now they're expected to clock in and be under radar. So that was a concern for us at the beginning. But really it's actually played in our benefit, and just with full disclosure as to why the GPS is there, it's actually allowed us to, it saved us some problems in some circumstances, but none of the employees seem to have an issue with it.
Yeah, that's actually, I think when we bring this solution to clients, I think that's obviously top of mind for them because everyone does have privacy concerns. And for us, same thing. Like we've always felt like it brings so much benefit. And like you said, once you can clearly explain to the employees what that is in place for, that it's not against them, it's to better the company as a whole, that really helps them to just understand, no, this is to make us all more efficient in the long run. And this is a really good tool to use. What are some of the features of ClockShark that you love the most?
I think the scheduling portion is our favorite, my business partner and myself, just because it's so user friendly on the back end. You can sit at your laptop and color coordinate and just really visually see where people are at certain times. And we use it every day, like, because being in an industry that's seasonal as well as weather dependent, yeah, we use it so often. And I guess the other thing too is that it has in real time tracking. So at the very end of the day, you can look and monitor the hours. We have a program, we have a system to make sure that everyone's tracked their time properly and that nothing got missed. So all around it's very efficient, and it's saved us time and money.
Right. Yeah. What is your approval process? Like if you just walk us through your whole process, start to finish, like from the time that you need to schedule people out on the job through how they're communicated with, and then the approval all the way to, okay, now these are good hours we want to send off for payroll.
Right. So we run a cruise from anywhere from 10 to 30 painters, depending on the time of the year. But we will sit down and we'll schedule the jobs. We schedule bi-weekly, so about 2 weeks out, and review the schedule daily just to make sure things are on track. That way the painters, it's nice that they get to see the exact address that they're going to. So when they arrive to site, they clock in. You can actually set a geofence reminder for them to clock in when they get to site if you choose to. They clock in at the end of the day, they are to clock out. The crew chiefs oversee the hours. At the end of the week, we like all the staff know that they are to check their hours for the entire week to make sure they're accurate so that they get paid properly. My business partner reviews them, and then I review them with my bookkeeper, and we send them off to payroll. And that's also for them signing off on their hours. That's their sign off. Like, it's the legalities that they have approved what they're being paid for.
Nice.
So that's pretty much start to finish. And if there's any adjustments daily, they'll just text my business partner and she can do a manual adjustment for their hours.
So I was going to ask you that's a good segue into what the next part of what I was thinking about. Prior to using ClockShark, was it a lot harder approval process? Did you have a lot more back and forth between you guys and the crews?
Well, we used Google Sheets, which I was sad to think that that's how we used to do things, but they would input their hours daily and they were responsible for that. And at the time I would do all the payroll. So I had to manually input all of their hours and just hope that they made sense. I did some math on it though. And just by ClockShark being to the minute, you save so much, because before they were either rounding up or rounding down to the quarter of the hour. So the cost savings when things are accurate is quite substantial.
I love that. I think, again, when we're trying to, as a advisor in the space that you work in, when we're bringing better tools and things for our clients to use, there's so many benefits to it that could be like hidden benefits. One of the things that you just said, I think, is one of those hidden benefits, right? Like, you might not necessarily think ahead of time of how much are we spending when every time that these guys round up a quarter of an hour? How much is that costing the company on every job?
Well, and some quick math to it. If you have 30 employees clocking quarter of an hour different per week, it's 100. Let's say they make $25 an hour. That's $190 per week and $750 a month.
Yes.
So just based on an oversight. And I would have never fixed it. So like seeing that, it's actually saving thousands of dollars in the ClockShark. So thank you.
Awesome. That's Luke, you need to be sitting over there going,
yeah. Right. I mean, that's what we do, right? That's why we're here. Yeah. We love hearing those stories, because that's great for businesses.
Not to mention the time savings, because now I don't have to input anything. I just approve the hours, send them over to the bookkeeper, syncs with QuickBooks, and they're paid. It's great.
Yeah. So how has your interaction with ClockShark been? Like, have you had opportunity to interact with their customer support team, and how has that gone? How is your onboarding? How are they in terms of like customer experience?
Awesome. I didn't realize actually how small of a startup they were when we were starting out. Like, we've been with them for over 3 years now, but we were really impressed with the fact that there's a help button, there's a chat with support, and you literally have somebody respond to you within minutes. And any issue, which has been very minimal, has been addressed, dealt with. And that's where we kind of learned, there's like real people behind this. And over the past year, I've got to meet over video conference or phone call some of the people that work at ClockShark, and they're all great. So we feel really fortunate that we chose to use them.
Yeah.
Because it came from a Google search of finding ClockShark to use for time tracking.
That's awesome. What were you searching, if you don't mind my asking? Do you remember what you were searching on Google?
Oh, mobile time tracking apps. They're pretty much just the
Yeah.
basics.
Yeah. Cool. I think when you were saying about there's like the help button and the chat feature, I think years ago, like you're saying, Luke and I go back, I think probably about the same amount of time as you, maybe a little bit longer, but I remember like hitting the little help button and Luke's face popping up like, hey, I'm Luke. How can I help you?
Yeah, it was literally me forever and ever, and then we started growing, and now we have a great team that does all of that. So
there were many times where I was like, Luke, this client has this issue. What can we do? What do we do to solve it? Right. So
that's so great.
That's awesome. So, and you said, Keiko, that you guys are approving all the time and sending it off to an advisor, somewhat like what our firm does. So walk us through that process. Like, was it a simple integration process to get it set up so that that's a seamless process for you guys, or how did that look?
Yeah, it's actually really seamless. So we hired this bookkeeper on just over, I guess, 2 years ago, and she wanted to streamline our payroll through QuickBooks. And we had before been using a different platform through a different company. But we were new to QuickBooks, and I said to her, I'm like, ClockShark is what we use for time tracking. Whatever we're going to use for payroll, we need to figure out how to make it work. And she figured it out within less than a day. I think she spoke to ClockShark's support a little bit, but now everything just integrates so nicely. And that's actually how, so that's how she does her job costing report. She'll go into ClockShark and see what's newly booked and prepare it from there.
Nice. I love that you said that too. Can you speak to that a little bit more? Like, what type of job costing reports are you guys pulling, and how is she preparing those for you? What are you looking at in those?
Yeah, so the basic thing is she'll take the jobs that have come in, and then she'll in real time kind of track the labor against it. So she can, because ClockShark allows you to track not only the hours worked, but the hourly wages per employee. So she can track the labor costs on the jobs and then pass that in QuickBooks. Obviously, she can input the variable costs, the cost of goods sold, that kind of thing. So we could get profit reports from her on a biweekly basis as well.
Nice. Because at the end of the day, that's the most important thing that you, Keiko, need to know every day. Are we making money on every job out in the field?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so I think another big piece of all of this, we haven't really touched on, but I think we should, is how much of a difference is it for you in managing a company when you have these types of programs that are automating a lot of this process and you get much more real-time data? Like, we're no longer in the age of accounting where we're looking a month past and going, okay, well, let's pull some month-end reports. Let's kind of see how we did. How much of a difference does that make for you, Keiko, in being able to manage your business when you have a lot of current data happening in your softwares?
Oh, it's game changing because it allows you to, analyze your jobs as well. And we've changed. We do a lot of commercial work. We used to do about 50 residential commercial, but seeing kind of where your profit hubs are, as well as what type of jobs are, worth your while. And your ClockShark's allowed us to really do that.
That's awesome. How is ClockShark fed into that? Where's that help come in with that?
The biggest thing is having the budgets for the jobs when you input them, and then seeing in real time where you are versus progress, as well as the hours worked, just to make sure that you are on budget, because labor is the biggest cost for us for our jobs. So having that under control, which you can see on a daily basis, has really allowed us to make sure that we're profitable on every single job. Not looking back on a job and saying, oh, did we make money? Like, right. Like, I know today on the jobs we're working, like where we are at for profit and how much budget is left.
That's awesome. Have you guys ever run into a situation where you were in the middle of a job and you could see some issues, whether it's labor or materials, but anything where you were able to address it before it got out of hand because you had some more of these automated tools?
I think it allows you more preventative. Like, we do check them daily, and to see where we're at. And on our larger jobs, we do weekly check-ins. So I think it would be really easy to just throw a bunch of people on a large project and hope that it gets finished on time. But we're pretty diligent about the labor budgets. But ClockShark's great because when you're scheduling, you can actually see how many hours you budgeted per day, as well as kind of what you might have for contingency planning, a little bit of room.
Perfect. Yeah. So you're planning out capacity, but then you also have the ability to plan for what ifs. So
yes, that's right.
I love it. I think this has been a really awesome discussion. Is there anything else about ClockShark that you'd love to add, Keiko or Luke?
Luke, you want to go ahead?
Go.
I mean, yeah, we're super, super happy with Keiko and Proco Painting. I'm really excited to be working together with them and how it's helped their business. And yeah, it's just what we love doing every day. So I'm really excited that she had us on for this, Tanya, and it was really great.
Yeah, we love ClockShark. We really looked into other platforms. Even now, some of the platforms we're using as a CRM, they offer time tracking and scheduling. And in my opinion, there's nothing that compares. So we're really happy. So thank you for thank you for making such a great product. But
Awesome.
yeah, if anyone's looking into it, I definitely recommend.
That's awesome. You guys need to like soundbite that over there, Luke. Recording.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, I'll send it over to the marketing team. They'll take care of it.
Exactly. Well, okay, thank you guys both so much for coming and sharing with us about ClockShark. I really do think it's a valuable tool for our construction company clients and advisors that want to know more about it. So, Luke, if they want to find out more, what's the best way for them to find out more about ClockShark?
I mean, the website is really easy, clockshark.com. Any of our socials is at Get Clockshark. So Twitter, Instagram, all those good stuff, Facebook, at Get Clockshark. So check us out on any of those. Or you just go to the website, chat with us if you have questions, or call in. Our people love talking to anyone that's interested. So check it out anywhere you can find us.
Awesome. Sounds great. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having
You're welcome.
me.
Thanks for having us as well.
Yeah.
Thank you for tuning in to Construction Junction. To find out more about the junction between accounting and construction, please email hello@theprofitconstructors.com.